سبحان الله والحمد لله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله والله أكبر.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome viewers to another episode on Huda of Our Schools What is Missing. Welcome to you all. We've been discussing over this series many different aspects of the deficiencies, what is missing in our schools today and the modern school system. And we've talked about various different aspects of this. But today we're going to be focusing on the rights of the individuals concerned in the school system, perhaps particular reference to the students. With me in the studio is Dr. Mamdouh, as per usual in this series. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome. And we are going to extend, obviously, the dialogue on this very subject. Now, talking about the rights of individuals, we've talked about the balance of knowledge and skills. We've talked also about the original nature and preserving the original nature of the students and the human beings, so important, particularly as we have it in Islam. But the question comes, are we really addressing the needs of the students in our school system?
This is a good question, but I'd like to link it with also one of the topics that we talked about is the perfection. Part of the perfection that we mentioned is that we give every student the rights that he deserves. And why is that? Because there are some individual differences. Some students are high achievers, some are low achievers, some are visuals. Students are of different learning styles. Teachers are of different teaching styles. Students have different talents and different hobbies and different things. So if we address students as a whole, as one person, as an average, this is a very scary part, and this is considered one form of injustice, because we do not address the needs of that particular student. In other words, we don't give him his opportunities to develop himself at his own pace, and he needs some help to catch up with others. Sometimes he needs some help because he has some qualities that may qualify him to be on the top of the educational system, to be a leader, to be prepared as a leader. So the schools, most of the schools do not pay attention to this.
Well, it seems to me a very difficult and challenging prospect that schools are faced with. I mean, to deal with such a range of abilities, needs, hobbies, interests. Can a school really be expected to deal with such a wide variety?
Yes, we have a lot of schools also who have done that. Of course, you do this, first of all, when you have the educational background, when you have the knowledge about the importance of this topic, when you are convinced that the students are of different abilities, and when you address the average student, that means that you are depriving the advanced students from his opportunities to be a leader, because he goes with a different ability, with a different speed than the other students. So you are preventing him from using his potentials or her potentials.
Okay, so then we come to the question then, how exactly can this be done?
Of course, this can be done easily by training the teachers to differentiate their teaching. So when they are dealing with teaching a class, they have to prepare different tasks and to give each task to a group of students who, according to their own level of learning. If they are low achievers, so they need to give them a task that's a little bit lower in its level than the average class. And with the advanced students, They can give them a different task. And this is very simple. For example, this appears when you make question to evaluate the students, or you give them some problems to solve in the class. You give them, for example, let's say 9 questions or 10 questions. You give the first 3 questions is for the low students. All students are supposed to answer the questions, right? But you as a teacher, you would know that you would correct those students because you know that they are weak, right? So you would correct them out of 3 questions. The average students, you expect him to answer 3 plus the other 3, which is, this is the medium. So you expect a number of students in the class to answer that. And you know that only 3 or 4 students in your class who are outstanding students, you expect them to answer these difficult problems that come at the end.
Okay.
So this is called differentiation. You differentiate between the students that you have in class.
Okay, so I see we've got some fairly interesting issues in that. I mean, firstly, you've got to have the identification,
absolutely,
the ability to see,
diagnose that.
So this takes some sort of level of teacher skill.
Yes, absolutely.
And this perhaps might take time to build in.
Yes, everything takes time, and you need to train teachers. This is called assessment. When we make assessment for our students, first of all, this is a very important issue that we may handle separately. But when we make the assessment for the students, most people make assessments according to the textbook. In other words, they ask questions that are not related to standards. When I talk about standards, that a student by the end of year such and such, he or she would be able to do this and this and this and this and this. If these standards are set there, they are clear for every teacher, they are clear for every student. Even some schools, we have seen some good examples, best practices, that in every classroom, the sets of standards are there written on the wall. And the teacher, from time to time, he or she reviews these standards with the students and would ask the students, where are we in terms of measuring ourselves against these standards? So the students are aware that there are some standards that they need to reach there. And the students themselves, when they evaluate, they say, okay, let's say that this exercise or this passage or this task does not serve these standards. They are away from that. They may guide the teacher himself or herself to exclude this exercise and to replace it by another thing that would help the students reach these standards by the end of such and such. If we have these standards are clear, the exams should measure these standards. So the questions in the exams should be made and designed in order to measure whether the students achieve these standards or reach these standards or not.
Okay, so what about in the case
it sounds a little bit complicated. However, by training, the teachers can do that. They need some training. They need some orientation. And the examples are given to them. And in this way, they can apply that.
Yeah, I think it's fairly clear that, it's certainly some of the remedies you're suggesting are actually applied school-wide. And they're not just one, for example, training teachers. It's not just a solution like that. It's perhaps a holistic solution to the problem, because each piece seems to interact and be dependent to some extent on the other.
Yeah. Teachers need to know their tasks, need to know that those students have rights. Teachers, our schools in general, need to understand that, you see that when you study any country in the world, even the most advanced countries, for example, in the USA, for example, they found a specific group of people, the Afro-Americans, for example, at certain time, regardless of the causes that caused this to happen. But they found that because a lot of them and other people would go to prisons and would cause some problems to the society, they found this group of people are pulling down the society. Every time the society wants to rise, step ahead, they found that this group of people is pulling them down. This is the same way how we can see any class. Any classroom, if you have some weak students and they are not coping with the average, they are pulling down the class. So the teacher should find solutions, the whole school should find solutions to give those students their rights to develop their potentials, to take them from this level to put them with the average.
And part of that is staggering the work according to the level.
Exactly. Yes.
So what about effects of this staggering the work? Perhaps if you've got students that are really going far ahead and the teacher is staggering the work, but how might someone who's not an achiever or is not really going forward, how can we deal with that person who perhaps isn't quite as competent as the next man?
Yeah, definitely. When the curriculum is designed in that way, that has lots of options and lots of flexibilities, so that a teacher would select, when I give an assignment to students, I would give those particular students, this group of students who fit in that level, I would give them some tasks and some problems that are on their level. What we mean by that is not what they know. Usually the teaching to let people learn, to give them something one step ahead of their level. Not 2 steps or 3 steps, because they cannot do it. They need only 1 step, right? So you give them the tasks and the problems and the exercises that would help them. Yes, when they understand this, they can easily make the transition from this level to that level.
Okay, so I guess we can separate them out into different groups and perhaps group them
and give them different tasks. There's another solution, many other solutions that you give them extra lessons. So by adding to them extra lessons, and the school has to design its schedule or timetable in a way that there may be, for example, 1 hour per week that's flexible. Each group of students would go to a specific class because they have problems with this particular subject. And they are low achievers, for example, in Arabic, or low achievers in math, or low achievers in science. So they would take an extra period in this specific. So when you add these periods together, if the class is well designed, so it will help them after some time to be integrated again back to the classrooms that they were in. So there are many solutions for that.
Okay.
But first, let's spread the culture of students' need should be addressed by the school.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. We're going to go for a short break. Stay with us. We'll be back soon.
Professor Muhammad Naeem Al-Sa'i and Brother Ahmed Rajab in their show Islamic Law Today.
Is the duty and responsibilities and the job of every Muslim believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Rasulullah alayhi to share in this very blessed and very honorable project to revive this deed. Very briefly, I want Muslims, Ummah, the audience, the viewers, to believe in their God, to believe in their Islam.
For example, and she's giving a very good example, Mufti said that protesting is against Islamic law.
You have just opened a very deep wound in my heart.
If we want to analyze the Egyptian revolution as a Muslim scholar, how do you look at it?
Egyptian youth were able to do because they have these 3 elements. They were able to unite the whole Egyptian people in a very clear message, very simple. They have very clear demands. They want democracy. They want freedom. They want justice.
What is the Islamic law perspective regarding the protesting? Is there rules to have a demonstration?
Can we deny that what is going on in Egypt right now is better than 3 years ago?
Of course.
No. It is better.
Of course.
So this is the blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How to reshape this result, how to activate the Islamic law after the result of this revolution, this is the work of the Islamic law and its people.
The issue of demonstrations and protesting against government or seeking change through demonstrations. What should be done to reform it in an Islamic way? The next episode, they will continue to discuss the Egyptian revolution in the eyes of the Muslim scholars.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, viewers, from our short break. Before the break, we were discussing with Dr. Mamdouh the progress of achievement and giving the rights to individuals, but particularly with all the different levels and different personalities that we're faced with being human beings. We talked a little bit, Dr. Mamdouh, about the low achievers. Let's talk a little bit about the high achievers, because I think the worry amongst our communities and many communities of the world is developing the leaders of the future. What can we do to make sure that those people are given their rights, their rights to excel and to really develop beyond and fulfill their potential? What can we do here?
We talked about the diagnostic tests in the beginning of every school year. These diagnostic tests, if they are clearly and specifically designed and made, they will help every school to diagnose the strength and the weakness in every subject for every student. And by this we can know that those students are good at these issues, and the grades that they take, or the marks that they get, or the achievement they do is different from the others.
So in the first, we need to identify
Absolutely,
who these people are going to be. Yeah, as we said.
Now, if we know that, we need to exert. You remember that we said that there's an extra hour given to the low attainers in another subject, or one subject. At the same time, while those students are taking this, right, those other students who are high achievers are taking something else, are taking something higher than their level, are taking something that would use or utilize their potentials or motivate them to use every quality they have.
I think that's a very important point, because I think a lot of us, a lot of people who are in the teaching community always tend to give the extra lesson to the weak candidate without thinking about
looking at those
the strong candidates. So I think that's learning point.
This is why we see that these countries usually are not advanced, because they don't have leaders. They don't have people who are above the others to lead them. We need to create an environment that would help us prepare those leaders. And this is at every level, even at the KG level. Even in your home, you can do that. You know that this child is better than the other child in some aspects. So develop this, focus on this. A child is a good reader than the other. He reads, for example, one story per week. So motivate him to make it 2 per week. Motivate it to be 3 per week, and so on and so, because he's good in reading. Another student would be advanced in other qualities. So you need to use these potentials as early as possible. And good trained teachers can do this.
So are we talking about goal setting here? Is that what we're talking about?
We do have goal settings, but even though some students, they can reach these goals in shorter time than others. So sometimes you would find those students, they finish the task in the classroom together. All the students finish. Those advanced students would finish them in less time, and they sit just relaxing. So this time is a lost time for them. We need to utilize this time for them. That's why if they have difficult tasks, they would not finish earlier. Even if they finish earlier, the teacher can give them extra work, extra tasks, extra exercise to do that, which should be more difficult and more challenging than the average tasks that are given to everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So task extension is very important,
Yes.
particularly for the parents as well, because
the parents should benefit from this. As you mentioned,
that will
these
keep them working.
keep them working.
Keep them busy.
Teachers, this is part of their job. The teachers are helping them. We are working together to produce leaders.
Let's just touch on the rights given to teachers in schools. I mean, many teachers are under a lot of pressure, be it in the West or other countries. They're under a lot of pressure to deliver. How much are the schools able to fulfill the rights, and how much should they fulfill and help and give the support to these teachers?
This is the difference between a good school and a non-good school, I would say that. The good school knows that if they train the teachers, if they give the teachers more freedom in the class, if they train the teachers to do right assessment of the students so that they can diagnose the weaknesses and the strong points of their students, they need to be supported by the schools, and the support would be represented in having them being part of designing the curriculum.
So that's a group kind of exercise
of course,
for the same.
The curriculum should be taught by even if you have some textbooks. These textbooks are considered the basic things that to be used. But the teacher has the right to select other exercises from this book or that book, or has to make some activities, other activities that would really benefit the students.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, because I think now a lot of teachers have to develop this curriculum themselves. But yet if you did it in a group, the benefits to that, to the whole group as a whole, is advantageous.
No doubt, two heads are better than one.
Okay.
Yeah, there's simple logic in every culture in the world. So that's why it's a group work. It is our responsibility. When we do it together, I benefit from your experience, you benefit from her experience or my experience, and all these experiences are put together to produce something good, especially if this is done under good training. We need to be trained to do that.
And I guess this comes back to best practice, spreading best practice. But what about, for example, occasionally teachers can be a little bit selfish in they've got some good stuff, they want to use it, they want to get paid, they want to be shown to be doing the best job. There's a bit of competition in there. How does that reconcile with the group idea of developing a curriculum together?
Yeah, this is very important. But when you implant this type of culture, is the best of you is the one who benefits humans. So the more you benefit, the more you get benefit. If you keep your good things for you yourself, you deprive others from benefiting from it, you get little reward.
Yeah, that's true.
If you spread it among many people, that's what we're doing. We want to spread the goodness among people. I have good practice. We have a good religion. This great religion of Islam, the final message, we want to spread it among people so they would benefit from it. We want to share the happiness that we have. We want to share the rewards that we have. And of course, this will not affect the number or the amount of rewards that we are going to get from Almighty Allah. Rather, we want to benefit humanity.
Okay.
Look at many inventions, the invention of electricity, for example. How many people on the earth benefited from this?
Just finally, touch on the Islam. How does this sort of... Is this been done before? Is this somewhere in Islam that...
This is deeply rooted, these concepts are deeply rooted in this religion. For example, one of the most common saying is that أَعْطِ كُلَّ ذِي حَقٍّ حَقَّهُ. Give each one his due rights. So the advanced student has specific rights, has some rights that the average student doesn't have. So we need to give this one to meet his rights and needs, and to give this one his rights and needs. And again, the low achiever needs to get his or her rights, right? So this is أَعْطِ كُلَّ ذِي حَقٍّ حَقَّهُ. And this is again back to the whole concept of justice. To be just and to be fair to the students is not just by saying, no, by preparing your lesson very well, by addressing the needs of those groups and this category, by preparing this well, by doing your works professionally and scientifically, you can benefit all those. And remember all the time that you get rewards for that. Yeah. And this is inculcated in all the acts of the Prophet ﷺ. And again, for those teachers that you said that each one wants to be selfish, remember that, yeah.
Sometimes there is a little bit of that from my experience.
خَيْرُ النَّاسِ أَنْفَعُهُمْ لِلنَّاسِ. The best of the people is the one who benefits other people more. And one of the things that some people sometimes forget in this life is One of our tasks in this life, which is part of our worship to Almighty Allah, is to gain as much rewards from Almighty Allah on the Day of Judgment. We can do this. So if this way is better than this way to get more rewards, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to leave this one because I found a different way to get more rewards. Yes. Try to imagine the concept of fi sabilillah, the concept of sadaqah jariyah. When you make a sadaqah jariyah, when you, for example, you get an advanced student and you give him a scholarship to study, whatever benefit he will benefit otherwise, you are going to be rewarded for that. So when you implant this culture in the brains of the teachers and the parents and every human being, each one of them will try to do his best and to compete with each other to benefit humanity.
So this is really coming from the essence of Islamic thought.
This is the essence of it.
Yeah, and Islamic culture. So, we should be working and promoting these ideas. And sometimes, perhaps it's not that we're coming with Islam and we're telling everyone that Islam and Islam and Islam, but it can just come through the deed and the simple thing, the simple system, the way you run your class.
This is it. By doing it professionally.
Because some of us obviously work in schools that perhaps they're not, Islamic schools, but how can we bring the idea of Islam in there without necessarily, sometimes in the West, people don't want to hear necessarily Islam. But they want to see the good deeds.
We call it Islam in practice.
Islamic practice,
yeah. Islam in action. Yeah, so we take these concepts and apply them in our life. When we perfect our job, we are giving the good example for all human beings to know that Islam really is a religion that benefits all human beings. Not just by saying, but when we put it into action. This is something that's missing really in Islamic schools. And I think that some Islamic schools, alhamdulillah, have started doing it in action. We need it to be on the individual level, whether you are a teacher or a parent, but as a human being, as an individual human being, you need to, after perceiving this in you, you need to put it into action so that everybody around you would see this in action. And we can call it Islam in practice or Islam in action. And this is connected exactly with what you have said in the previous episode when you said that Aisha radiallahu anha, when she was asked about the manners of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she said that in very few words, she said that كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. His manners, his behaviors, his actions were the embodiment or were the representation of the Qur'an.
Okay.
So Islam in action.
That's Islam is action. Thank you very much, Dr. Mamdouh. It is always a pleasure having you on the show, and we hope to see you again very soon, inshallah. That's all time we have for today, viewers. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you benefited again from the wise words of Dr. Mamdouh. I leave you with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Oh, sing, children of the world, come together and hear the call. Sing, children of the world, Islam will unite us all. Sing, children of the world, come together and hear the call. Sing, children of the world, Islam will unite us all. Subhan